Step out of the vehicle.
For a cracked windshield?
You're showing signs of intoxication.
I don't drink.
Then prove it.
I'm not taking any tests.
Get out now!
Most traffic stops are over in under 5 minutes. This one would stretch close to an hour. And when it finally ended, only one person on that roadside would walk away with their dignity fully intact. To understand how things got this far, we need to go back to where it all began. It was a quiet night in Ridgefield, Virginia, a peaceful town where the roads empty out well before midnight. Officer Brooks was midway through a routine patrol shift when his headlights swept across a vehicle moving south on Route 7. He noticed a crack running across the lower corner of the driver's side windshield. It was a minor equipment violation, the kind that usually earns a driver a quick written notice and a reminder to get it fixed. Nothing more. Officer Brooks activated his lights, and the vehicle pulled over smoothly with no hesitation. He approached the driver's side window, flashlight in hand, and asked the driver if he knew why he had been stopped. The driver, a young man named Jordan, calmly acknowledged the cracked windshield, explaining he was already aware of it and had been meaning to get it sorted. Jordan handed over his license and registration without being asked twice. His hands were steady, his voice was clear, and he showed absolutely no signs of nerves. What Officer Brooks did not yet know was that Jordan was a third-year law student who had spent years studying the very constitutional laws that govern traffic stops. That single detail was about to change everything. If the stop had ended right there, Officer Brooks would have issued a notice, Jordan would have driven home, and the night would have been forgotten. But as the officer reviewed Jordan's documents, his attention shifted away from the windshield. He asked Jordan if he had consumed any alcohol that evening. Jordan gave a direct, firm no. Most officers would have accepted the clear answer and moved on. But Officer Brooks pressed harder, asking if he was absolutely sure. Jordan calmly reiterated that he was certain because he doesn't drink at all. Despite Jordan's clear speech and steady demeanor, the officer began pointing to what he claimed were signs of concern, specifically the look of Jordan's eyes and a perceived slowness to respond. Jordan offered a perfectly reasonable explanation. He suffered from a chronic sinus condition and severe seasonal allergies, something he had dealt with his entire life. It had nothing to do with alcohol. In most situations, that would give a reasonable officer pause. But Officer Brooks had seemingly already made up his mind, and he was digging for something the situation simply wasn't giving him. Then came the request that defined the entire encounter. Officer Brooks asked Jordan to step out of the vehicle to perform standardized field sobriety tests. Without raising his voice or showing a trace of aggression, Jordan respectfully declined. Most drivers assume they have no choice but to comply, hoping it will make the encounter end faster. But Jordan knew exactly where his rights began and where police authority ended. He knew that field sobriety tests, the walk and turn, the one-leg stand, the eye tracking, are entirely voluntary. No law requires a driver to perform them, and choosing not to participate cannot legally be used as proof of guilt. Officer Brooks immediately pushed back, arguing that the tests were designed to help, and if Jordan had nothing to hide, it should be easy. Jordan airtightly countered that while he understood the officer's reasoning, he was not legally required to take voluntary tests. He made it clear that his refusal was not an admission of guilt, but simply the exercise of his rights. Frustrated, the officer accused Jordan of making things complicated. But Jordan masterfully pointed out that he had provided his license, registration, and insurance, and had answered the initial questions honestly. Everything beyond that was voluntary, and respectfully declining was not complicated at all. Officer Brooks had no legal ground to stand on, and somewhere beneath his rising frustration, he likely knew it. Realizing his authority wasn't working, Officer Brooks tried a gentler approach, lowering his voice and claiming he genuinely just wanted to make sure Jordan was safe to drive home. Jordan appreciated the concern but politely held his ground. He reiterated that he was sober, had a documented medical condition, and would not be taking a voluntary test. Jordan treated every single repetitive question with the same measured, unhurried calm. He didn't feel pressured because he had prepared for encounters exactly like this one. Then, Jordan revealed a piece of information that added a heavy new layer to the standoff. He told the officer that they had actually spoken before. About 8 months prior, Officer Brooks had pulled Jordan over near this exact spot in a similar situation, which had also ended without a citation. It was a detail that made the officer's current persistence feel incredibly questionable. 20 minutes into a stop for a cracked windshield, 2 additional officers arrived on the scene. 3 uniformed officers against 1 calm law student. The imbalance was obvious and intentional. The new arrivals took their turns probing for a crack in Jordan's composure. When Brooks told Jordan his colleagues just wanted to ask a few questions, Jordan stated he would confirm his documents but would not answer any further questions without legal counsel present. When the second officer tried the friendly good cop routine, promising it would only take 10 minutes, Jordan firmly repeated that his decision to decline the tests would not change. It was at this point Jordan casually mentioned that he had been recording the interaction on his phone since the backup arrived. He didn't say it as a threat, but as a matter of fact. When Brooks scoffed and asked if he thought that changed anything, Jordan simply noted that it created an accurate record of what was taking place. He was quietly building a defense for whatever came next. 40 minutes into the stop, Officer Brooks made a massive legal error. He told Jordan that he would not be driving his car home tonight and needed to call someone to collect him. Jordan seized the moment. He asked directly if he was under arrest. Brooks said no. Jordan then asked if he was being detained on suspicion of a specific criminal offense. Brooks tried to dodge the question, citing a general concern about Jordan's ability to drive. But Jordan wouldn't let him off the hook, pressing the officer for a simple yes or no. No answer came, because there was no legal foundation to give one. Jordan then laid out the law flawlessly. He told the officers that what they were describing was an unlawful detention. He hadn't consented to being held, he hadn't been charged with a crime, and he formally invoked his right to leave. He explicitly warned them that preventing him from leaving without lawful authority was a direct violation of his Fourth Amendment rights. Brooks, visibly out of options, complained that Jordan couldn't just quote the law and expect to walk away, muttering that people who know this much about their rights usually have a reason for it. Jordan delivered a crushing response. Knowing your rights isn't a sign of guilt, it is a sign of education. He reminded the officers that the Constitution exists for every citizen, and he fully intended to use it. It was shortly after this exchange that the stop hit the 50-minute mark, and Officer Brooks finally lost his composure, leading to the explosive confrontation we saw at the very beginning of this video. Backed into a corner with his tactics exhausted, Brooks snapped, ordering Jordan out of the car and telling him he couldn't teach him his job. And Jordan delivered the ultimate reality check, reminding the angry officer that his entire meltdown was captured on video, a recording that would follow his career forever. The roadside went dead silent. The other officers stepped back. The illusion of control was entirely shattered. Slowly, and without fanfare, the encounter wound down. Officer Brooks, completely defeated by a citizen who refused to be intimidated, finally pulled out his pad. He handed Jordan a simple citation for a cracked windshield. It was the exact same piece of paper he could have written in the first 2 minutes of the stop. Jordan politely thanked him, rolled up his window, and drove off into the night. It would be easy to watch this encounter and focus entirely on the conflict. But the real story here is about what happens when a person knows their rights well enough to use them under intense pressure. Jordan knew that field sobriety tests are voluntary, and that refusing them cannot be used as evidence of guilt. He knew he had the right to remain silent beyond providing his basic documents. He knew his right to record law enforcement in a public space was one of the most powerful tools a citizen has. And most importantly, he knew he could not be lawfully detained without probable cause tied to a specific crime. These are not loopholes. They are constitutional protections designed to shield every citizen from the misuse of authority. The only question is whether you know them clearly enough to apply them without losing your composure. Jordan did. And because he did, the outcome of that night was never in doubt. If this story made you think, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want a full breakdown of your rights during a traffic stop, drop a comment below and I will cover it in detail in the next video.